Okay, everyone, I think we'll go ahead and get started. Hello and welcome. My name is Meg McEwen. I am a program analyst in the Office of Mission Support in Research Triangle Park. I'm an RPCV. I served in Ethiopia from 2012 to 2015. And on behalf of the EPA, I'd like to welcome you all here today. We're so happy that you've joined us for the webinar to learn about this incredible agency and the opportunities that are available to you all. I think I speak for a lot of my colleagues and fellow RPCVs when I say I think so highly of Peace Corps, and I'm really proud to say I feel that way about the EPA. I'd like to take a moment to thank you all for joining us and for your selfless service. And we're really excited about the possibility of you joining the EPA team. So we have about an hour with you today, and we'd like to focus on sharing with you who we are, what our mission is. We'll speak on behalf of some of the current job opportunities that are available to you all and how to apply to those positions. And we'll also hear from some RPCVs who are current employees at the EPA, a little bit about what they do and how they transitioned from Peace Corps to the federal government. And we'll leave a good amount of time for some Q&A at the end to answer any questions that you may have. I just want to address one right now. I'm seeing a lot of questions on if this will be available, this recording, and the answer is yes. This presentation will be available from Peace Corps. They will send out a link of the webinars, I think at the end of the week when they're all complete. So you'll be able to either have this content again or share it with people that were maybe unable to make it today. And to get us started, I have the privilege of introducing Carol Terrace. She's an RPCV and currently the Associate Chief Financial Officer for the EPA. Carol?
Thank you. This is Carol Terrace's introduction. Very grateful to have a moment to speak with you all today. First, I do want to say how sorry I am that your time with Peace Corps was cut short. That had to be very wrenching. Certainly this virus that we're all battling in one way or another has disrupted everyone's lives. But yours have been dramatically moved on to a different path, and I am sorry about that. At the same time, I really appreciate that you're already looking into the next opportunity, and that speaks to your resilience, which RPCVs or Peace Corps volunteers are known for. So just a little bit about who we are here at EPA. You probably know our mission. We are here to protect human health and to safeguard the environment, the natural environment, the air, the water, the land, on which, life on this planet depends. So very important mission here at EPA, and we're very proud of that. We have a wide range of activities and professions that support the mission. So you see some listed here: research, monitoring, standard setting, enforcement activities. Essentially, what we're all about is preventing new pollution as well as cleaning up old pollution. Next page, please. Thank you. So the workforce here at EPA is about 13,000 people across the nation, so it's a substantial mid-sized agencies among all the federal agencies, but pretty big, and certainly bigger than you're accustomed to if you've interacted with Peace Corps headquarters. More than half of all EPA employees are engineers, scientists, and environmental protection specialists, which is more of a generalist. Other employees include legal lawyers, public affairs folks, financial specialists, and computer specialists. So we really do have a wide range of opportunities available. In terms of locations, our largest office is at headquarters in Washington, D.C., and we have just over 4,500 employees there. But in addition, you'll see across the U.S., the EPA has 10 regional offices in larger cities across the U.S., as well as a number of smaller locations, where we employ a variety of employees from scientists and community outreach staff, enforcement specialists, program analysts, operations support staff, all the different flavors. So there, as I say, there are a lot of, a big variety of activities and options to best use your skills. In terms of the Peace Corps connection, we're very proud to report that we have over 500 returned Peace Corps volunteers currently employed with the EPA, and certainly have had more over the years. Like with Peace Corps, I will say, EPA's mission attracted me in particular, and it may attract you too. It's very important to all of us, as you know. And it is big enough to have that wide variety of programs, lots of different possible ways to use your skills. And I've been fortunate enough to move around across, within the agency in several programs, including cleanup of old waste, including looking at chemicals and pesticides, and now here I am in the Chief Financial Office. I will say there's an active returned Peace Corps volunteer group here at the agency, particularly I'm on the email list here at headquarters. I'm sure there are others across the nation. So you can stay connected if you like with folks that have similar backgrounds to you. I was a classic volunteer experience. I was an English teacher in West Africa, in Niger, and then a while later I had the chance to work at Peace Corps, including overseas. And my Peace Corps experiences have really helped me here in my work at EPA. I've applied a lot of them. In particular, I was an admin officer overseas, and that work led me to an expertise and a long career in budget and finance here at EPA. So I do want to mention also, over the years I've had the opportunity to hire a number of returned Peace Corps volunteers. And it is always notable the work ethic and the experiences that you've had bring a broader perspective to the office. And it's really very helpful to the work of the agency to keep that broader look in mind. So I do hope you'll consider EPA as you look at your next steps. Thank you all. I'm going to turn it back
Thank
to
you so much, Carol. Yep. Thank you, Carol. And hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today. I understand the circumstances, I'm sure, are not what you hoped, but we're glad to have you. My name is Laura Jones, and I'm a supervisor in one of our human resources offices here at EPA. As Carol said, EPA has locations all over the U.S. So what you're looking at here is a slide, which is a summary of current EPA vacancies by location, which have already been posted on the Peace Corps job site. You can find them there and apply today. I know this slide may be small on some computers, so I'll summarize. Some of the jobs available right now include environmental protection specialists, policy analysts, scientists, engineers, attorneys, IT specialists, as well as various administrative jobs, which are a great way to support the mission of the EPA if you don't have a science or other technical background. More EPA opportunities are being posted to the Peace Corps job site every day, so we really encourage you to search there, as well as on the federal government's job site, usajobs.gov. The Peace Corps job site is probably the easiest and most direct way to search and apply for these positions, but we will also have a contact for you at the end of this presentation if you have any questions or are looking for an opportunity or a location that you don't see posted on the job site. So that's a quick summary of what's available right now at EPA for returned Peace Corps volunteers, and my colleague Amanda Jackson will provide more details on how to apply later in the presentation. But for now, again, thank you for being here, and I look forward to working with some of you in the future. Next up, we're going to have some returned Peace Corps volunteers who are current EPA employees share some of their experiences with you. So Angelina, I'll pass it to you next.
Okay, great. Thanks, Laura. As you see on the screen, my name is Angelina Feldman, although when I was in Peace Corps, my last name was Hurst. I served in Benin from 2008 to 2010. I was an English teacher, and I have now been at EPA for almost 10 years, which is hard to believe. A couple things. If you hear a 3-year-old in the background, I'm sorry. I'm trying to work from home with her here. So A couple of things I just wanted to emphasize. My background, like my degree from university is in French and art history. So that might not, you might not think that that easily translates into a job at EPA. Sorry, I'm trying to keep my daughter happy. Apologies, everyone. So one thing that, like I said, I wanted to emphasize is that my background is not in IT, and now I work in IT at EPA. Not so much the technical hardware side of IT, but information management, library sciences, data analytics, things like that. And when I applied for the job, I didn't necessarily think I had a great chance because my background was not in any of those things. But turns out that, even in a field like IT, they really need folks who can communicate, who can write, who can speak and bring people together. So I actually I feel like I've been a really good fit in my office. I've been in my office for quite a while. My boss is an RPCV. I have a few RPCV colleagues on my team, so that's pretty cool. And, there's both hard and soft skills I feel like I learned in Peace Corps that have applied to the job. So obviously just overarching, I mean, your flexibility and the ability to adapt to situations where you're new or you don't understand everyone. That has been really key for me in IT. I also led a Camp GLOW, which they have a lot of those around the world. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar. It stands for Girls Leading Our World, but there's other similar camps in other countries, and that, kind of familiarized me with the grant process and budget management, which are both things that I do in my daily job now. I did not come home from Peace Corps expecting to jump into EPA. I went to a job fair kind of by chance, ended up moving very quickly. I was originally from Ann Arbor, Michigan, and I moved to DC kind of in the course of a weekend, and now I've been here for 10 years, and I am still at EPA. I love it. I have no plans to leave EPA anytime soon. I just absolutely love the people I work with. I identify with the mission, and I also get to learn a lot of things, which I think is really important. Like I said, working in IT, I had no background in that, and now I have, I've had plenty of training opportunities to learn IT and other areas, so I feel like my, personally, my career has grown and my skill set has grown, and I just absolutely love it at EPA. So with that, I will turn it to the next RPCV who's going to speak.
Hey, I think that's me. Thanks, Angelina. And hopefully everyone can hear me okay. It's, definitely a transition for everyone with working from home right now. I just have a pug in the background, but he's snoring quite loudly, so if you hear that, that's my dog. I served in Senegal from 2012 to 2014. I was an agroforestry extension agent, and I served through the Masters International program. And so I kind of had a built-in structure when I COS'd in November of 2014. I came back to Michigan Tech and had to defend my thesis that spring semester. But through that time, I was kind of looking at what was next for me. I had a degree in environmental engineering, and I definitely wasn't really thinking the federal government, but did want to exercise that non-competitive eligibility for that year if I thought I'd wanted to. And so I was kind of looking at USA Jobs and the RPCV career portal, as well as just other opportunities that my grad school was sharing with the engineers. And I ended up applying for a lot of different things over the course of that semester, and one of them was through the RPCV career portal, which was for a job posted in the Region 8 office. And I didn't realize at that time, really where Region 8 was, and I'm actually stationed out of the Montana office now. So Denver is the headquarters for Region 8, but we also have a field office in Montana. And I got that job and accepted it very quickly because I knew I kind of wanted to be in the mountains and also wanted a position as an engineer, but wasn't quite sure of the work I'd be doing. And I landed as a Superfund remedial project manager. And it's definitely a role that we have a lot of RPCDs in the Montana office. I think we have like at about 6, and there's only 20 people in our office. And then in Denver, we have a lot of RPCDs as well. And working in Superfund, it is definitely very important, and a lot of my skills that I got through Peace Corps are applied. Definitely having a background as an engineer is really important. And you can also you can work in Superfund as a community involvement coordinator, a public affairs specialist. We work with teams of scientists, hydrologists, chemists. So you have a large team that you work with, and we need all kind of that different skill set because you're working in people's homes, in their yards. There's a lot of kind of meetings that come along with that, and they're often contentious. You're working with other state and federal agencies like Montana Fish and Wildlife Parks, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services. You're working with tribes if you're on tribal land, and then definitely local government systems and with the community members themselves. And so I think as an engineer, having that Peace Corps experience, being able to, bring a large group together and speak to them about Superfund, which in itself is a different language. And so having that skill as a Peace Corps volunteer to really be able to communicate to a large group and facilitate, what can be a really stressful meeting for people to hear about what are their risks in their yard or homes. And so I think it's been so useful, and I am so lucky to have kind of landed in that position where I get to combine so much of what I enjoyed in Peace Corps with a highly technical degree like an engineer. And so I think if that sounds like something you want to bring to your career, and I also, I really identify with the mission of the EPA. Whenever I start a meeting, it's great to be like, my only job is to protect clean, healthy environment. That's what I'm tasked to do, and that's what I'm here to speak to everyone about. And so I think that's just something you got to feel passionate about, and then know that you'll be challenged every day in EPA as you probably were in Peace Corps, because the job's always changing. You sometimes have to work with limited resources and kind of be a go-getter to move these projects along. But it has been extremely satisfying. And this is my 5th year as a Superfund project manager, and I manage a variety of sites. You'll get the kind of typical hazardous waste site, like a cleaning facility that's not very pretty. But in the mountainous regions, we also have these high altitude abandoned mine sites where we're traveling and hiking all day and collecting samples on the sides of mountains. And so you get a wide variety that way as well. And I think that's all I really had to share with everyone. Happy to take questions or talk further, but I'll pass it along to the next RPCD.
Allie, before you close, can you just talk a little bit about Superfund and what that means, what a Superfund site is?
Yeah. Sorry, I made a note to do that because I definitely didn't quite understand. So I manage the cleanup of hazardous waste sites. And so from investigation to developing how to address contamination through the actual construction, so you can also serve as a construction manager, and then through the lifespan of that site. So you're just addressing hazardous waste on different properties and cleaning it up.
Perfect. Thanks. Hi, everyone. My name is Lindsay Carrera. I'm just going to roll with it, assuming that everybody can hear me, and I hope you can. First of all, I want to tell everybody welcome back, although many of you wish you were still in your country of service. But we are happy to have you. Thank you for your service. In Musoga, we would say Jebaleko. I served in Uganda as a Peace Corps volunteer from 2013 to 2016. I did my original service in education, and then I extended into the health sector. Immediately after that, I jumped into grad school because I learned that you could extend your NCE up to 3 years if you were actively enrolled, which I believe is still the case, but obviously someone working for Peace Corps would be a better source for that, which was great because I chose to do a double master's program. My background is not in environmental engineering. I have a master's in community practice, social work, and social welfare policy. So I actually finished my degree early, and I went into response in Peru. So I actually still had active NCE while I was in Peru, because I know that right now Peace Corps is closed, but you will also gain NCE after a year of being in the response program. My program ended up, I wasn't evacuated, but it was a small family violence organizing effort, and they lost local funding, so I actually left a little bit early for my response, and I was looking at the RPCV career link, which I've always found to be immensely helpful. In my experience, when I used USA Jobs to apply for jobs, it would take a lot longer, and sometimes I wouldn't actually get a response. When I used the career link, I would typically have HR folks emailing me back after I sent them my application within a couple of hours.
So then I jumped into EPA. I've been there for about 10 months, so I'm still in my first year. And my job is I'm a community involvement coordinator, so I'm actually really glad that Allie had the opportunity to kind of explain what Superfund is, because essentially I'm the public liaison for all of those sites. So as you can imagine, people have a lot of feelings and they have a lot of needs that arise when there's a hazardous waste event in their communities, and they need somebody to be attentive to those needs and kind of help negotiate and advocate on their behalf, and also kind of be somebody that can, you know, temper some of the expectations and what EPA really does and explain that work. And I do work in the public affairs office, so I also help out with a lot of public affairs work, whether it be, you know, press releases, making sure the community is informed about what EPA does, because as somebody that doesn't have an environmental background, I learned a lot about just how broad some of these programs are and just how huge they are. So I think some of the service skills that I think would be really useful is that I think all PCVs have sort of a community-based mindset. They have this extraordinary opportunity to kind of tease out and apply what I would call sort of programs within the national welfare state. And I'm using that term academically, which is kind of annoying, but a sort of the collection of publicly funded programs like health and education and how they intersect and how they intervene with each other. And we get into really close proximity with these programs of our host countries, and the ability to compare and contrast the effectiveness of those with something really domestically familiar, such as the U.S. public system, is really invaluable. And I think EPA, I'm getting to my point, is an agency with programs meant to be responsive to community needs at their core. And the skill set of being able to apply and manipulate and sort of strengthen those capacities as a public agency is something that a lot of folks strive to have here. I also think that Peace Corps volunteers have a great opportunity and skill and adaptability and flexibility. Obviously, I know everyone says that, but it will be a lot different than your Peace Corps service. Programs and strategies change within elections years, and through reorganizing and being willing to kind of navigate those waters, it can be challenging both professionally and personally, and the structure is also very different. So I think Peace Corps volunteers are well suited for that. And in terms of how the agency could benefit from all of you, I think that our PVs they tend to be folks who are interested in expanding their breadth of experience. I want to speak to what everyone before me said about just how many opportunities there are to learn new skills. I sometimes go to my GIS lab just to sort of play around because I had some experience with it in graduate school. I've learned a lot about environmental engineering as somebody that doesn't have a STEM background. I've learned a lot about enforcement. I've learned a lot about sort of the legality around these things, and it's really been interesting. And the agency can benefit because within such a large board, it's so incredibly diverse across sort of, you know, gender, race, ethnicity, and even age. It's easy to get kind of lost and participate in what's called siloing, which I'm not going to use because I think it's diminutive to a lot of my colleagues that work really, really hard. But the size and scope of the work in perspective. And I part of a service to kind of crack jokes and stuff about Peace Corps, but I think our PCVs gained the secret spot kind of in their hearts and minds for being a part of something that is of service to the public and that their communities kind of implicitly and explicitly benefit from. And from my perspective, the agency has been really welcoming of that, and it would immensely benefit from the really truly soulful experiences that our PCVs have with this idea of community resiliency. So if anyone has any questions for me ever, you can find me on the EPA site. You can email my work email. I'm available, and thanks again.
Thanks, Lindsay. Hi, everyone. My name is Amanda Jackson. I'm also an RPCV. I served in Moldova from 2014 to 2016. And like several of my colleagues who have already spoken today, I utilized my NCE status to get my job in human resources at EPA. So I just want to talk to you about where to find job openings for our agency, how to apply, and then exactly what are the benefits of your NCE status. So starting with where to find job openings, this is a screen capture of the RPCV career link from the Return Peace Corps portal on the Peace Corps website. This link has also been posted in the question and answer if you're unfamiliar with it. So if you are looking for positions to utilize your NC status after you have returned, this is a great place to come. Laura spoke about a lot of our job openings across the agency, which are spread across the nation right now, and they are constantly updating. This screen capture shows 21 postings from yesterday, and before this presentation I looked and we are up to 29. So our offices are constantly posting on here. We love to hire Peace Corps volunteers. You can see that you can filter also. So of course you all want to work for EPA above any other agency, so make sure that you filter Environmental Protection Agency to find all of our openings that we have. When you apply to these positions, make sure you check the listing for any additional documents that need to be submitted. However, always make sure that you're submitting your resume, description of service with your signed by your country director, and your transcript. Your transcripts, you really want to make sure that these have your GPA, or at least your GPA is listed in your resume. At a lot of our entry-level positions in the federal government, we are able to use transcripts and superior academic achievement, or a GPA at the 3.0 or higher, to qualify you for a position if you do not yet have professional experience. Some positions are going to have different requirements than others. You've heard some of my colleagues talk about engineering work opposed to IT and public relations. All positions are going to have their individual requirements. Some have education requirements, such as an engineer, which requires an engineering degree, or a physical science who requires a degree and a certain amount of semester hours within that degree to qualify for that position. So when you are reviewing job openings, make sure you're reading the description of the job to ensure it's a good fit before you apply. You're also able to apply to some jobs directly on USA Jobs. Having served in Peace Corps and now being a returned of non-competitive eligibility, which means you have the ability to compete along with existing federal employees. So in this left-hand screenshot, the phone image with the hiring paths, when you log on to USA Jobs and create your profile and are ready to apply jobs, you have the ability to filter hiring paths. One of those hiring paths is Peace Corps and AmeriCorps Vista volunteers. By selecting this hiring path, you're able to filter all of the open federal positions to those positions which you have eligibility to apply to. Those are going to be positions that are currently open government-wide. So as I said, you're competing along with current federal employees, but you're not competing against the general public. So you already have your foot in the door. On the right-hand side, we have that screenshot of eligibility questions. So specifically to EPA, once you begin a application for one of our positions, you'll have to answer a number of eligibility questions before completing the application. Question number 25 is going to ask if you have any non-competitive appointment authorities, and one of those answers is selecting Peace Corps or Vista. You always want to make sure that you're selecting this. This is a flag up to the HR specialist who is reviewing your application so that they know you have a non-competitive hiring authority, you're eligible for that job, and they'll make sure that your application is reviewed and submitted to the hiring official if you meet those basic qualifications, the education requirement if there is one, the experience levels that we're looking for. What we're looking for in your resume when you're applying to jobs, you always want, on USA Jobs, you always want to read the entire vacancy announcement. Read the duty section, qualification requirements, to make sure that when you are drafting your resume, you are really reflecting that you have that experience that's required for this specific position. You also want to include the position title of each position that you've held, the company and salary, weekly hours worked, and also the beginning and end dates of employment. The beginning and end dates of employment is extremely important when you're applying to federal jobs, because when we are looking or evaluating your experience, we're looking for 1 year of full-time work. So if you're simply putting in years, you tell me that you have been working on grant writing from 2015 to 2016. Without a month, I'm not able to assume that that has been a year. It could easily be December of 2015 to January of 2016. So make sure you're putting in those months so we can evaluate 1 year of experience. Okay, so what does your non-competitive eligibility mean? So non-competitive selection. This is the NCE status that we have been referring to that gives you the eligibility, the ability to apply on USA Jobs along with the federal workers. As we've said, it is an eligibility that is for 1 year from the date your DOS has been signed by your country director, the date that you have COS and left your Peace Corps service. It can be extended for up to 2 years to total a 3-year NCE. However, this is at the discretion of the agency to which you are applying. The reasons that it can be extended are because of education, military service, and then additional reasons at the discretion of the agency, which are typically going to be you have been employed in another position that's relevant to the work that you are going to be involved in and the agency that you're applying to. Education meaning that after you completed your Peace Corps service, you are going directly into a new education program. So you go back and you're getting your master's, so that stopped you from using your NCE status for that first year. Same with active military. You've enlisted after you were returned from Peace Corps, and that stopped you from using that 1 year. Some other benefits of your NCE status are volunteer time being applied to your leave accrual. So when you first become a federal employee, you will have 4 hours of annual leave biweekly or every two weeks, which is 1 pay period for us here in the federal government. You'll accrue those 4 hours until you have 3 years of federal service. What's great about being an RPCV is that your volunteer time is applied towards those 3 years, minus your PST, so training time's not counted in this leave accrual. So if you have to get up to 3 years and you serve your whole 24 months of volunteer service, you only have 12 months more to reach that 3 years to up your 4-hour accrual up to our 6-hour leave category. So it is a huge benefit to get into the government and get that leave bumped up, because as everyone knows, 4 hours every 2 weeks doesn't accumulate quite as quickly as 6 hours, and that's really important, especially if you like to travel a lot. Most RPCVs do. I know I try to be out of the country at least 6 weeks a year, so my 6 hours biweekly is really important to me. Along with leave accrual, you're also able to buy back your Peace Corps service towards your retirement annuity. If you do plan on this, what this means is you can buy back your service to add on to the amount of time you've been a federal employee for retirement. So if you come into the government and you are working here for 30, 40 years, those 40 years, you're going to be able to add on an additional 2 towards your federal pension. So it is a huge advantage to have those additional years once you buy them back. If you do get into the government, I highly advise you to buy back your time as soon as possible. Interest will start to accrue after 3 years of leaving Peace Corps, and that's going to add on money rapidly. Once you first get out, you're only going to pay 3% of your total stipend of the 2 years. So it comes out to a little less than $250 for you to be able to apply that to your retirement annuity. It's a huge deal, and you really should take advantage of it if you get into the federal government. And lastly, the local RPCV network. Carol talked earlier about how we have a huge network. We have over 500 employees who are returned Peace Corps volunteers across the agency, and there are also local networks of people who get together. I work in Research Triangle Park, and we do have a local group who do lunches, they do happy hours. So if you're worried about working in a place where no one really understands all of the anxiety you get when you go to the grocery store and there's more deodorant than you could even imagine, or there's more salad dressing that you knew existed because you're only used to eating mayonnaise, don't worry. There's tons of RPCVs here at EPA who will be able to recognize the struggles of coming back to America and transitioning back into normal life. So it's a huge advantage. I really suggest coming and working for EPA. I moved across the country for my job when I got back from Moldova and from California, and I moved to North Carolina. And I think it's the best decision I've ever made. I wouldn't change anything. I love my job. I love working for EPA, so I hope some of you apply to some of the jobs that we have open on the RPCV career link and through USA Jobs and join our team. Thank you.
Awesome, Amanda. Thank you so much. And she is so right. There's definitely a large network of folks who understand all of the hardships and anxieties that come along with returning from your service, and also just those that want to share and hear stories. So that's great. And thank you to all of our presenters for sharing. Before we finish up, I just want to make you all aware of the variety of resources that are available to you. Please check out, as Laura and Amanda said, the RPCV career link. You can search for jobs that you might be interested in, some that you heard about today, and also monitor USA Jobs, where there'll be some more specialized positions, maybe at higher grades, that will be posted there. As it was said, both sites get updated almost daily as positions become available, so please continue to check out those links for opportunities. And for more information about the agency, go to EPA.gov. You can learn about specific organizations and the efforts that are being made by our staff toward our mission. Another awesome resource is EPA's YouTube channel. It houses content on the people and careers. It has a lot of videos that allow you to take an in-depth look at some of the positions that you've even heard about today and hear from some of those employees. I do just want to let you know that although we're in a really unusual circumstance right now, where the majority of us are working from home and not in the office, we are still hiring. We're still interviewing, making selections, and onboarding individuals virtually. So please don't let that stop you from applying to anything right now. I know Amanda and Laura touched on this, but the RPCV career link is probably your best bet right now. It's going to be the most targeted way to get to the hiring managers as quickly as possible, so definitely use that. And at the bottom, you'll see an email for Shane Santos. That is our contact. So if you have any questions, if you're not finding the position that you're looking for, please feel free to submit your resume there, and we will make sure it lands in the most appropriate hands. Again, we want to stress that we are here for you and here to support you through this process, so please do not hesitate to reach out and ask questions. I also want to just echo everyone as colleagues and RPCVs. This is a really hard time for you, and it is at the core of volunteers to be adaptable and not only take the next opportunity and run with it, but to crush it, really. And so we look forward to working with a lot of you in the future. That's one of the many things that make you desirable candidates, and we really hope that you consider joining the EPA team. Thank you so much for your time today. We'll take some questions. And again, I just want to let you know that this presentation will be available, and the link will be sent out from Peace Corps at the end of the week. So thank you all so much. And please bear with us as we look through some of the questions and get you answers as quickly as we can. I see one from Katie that says, is there any chance of NCE being extended further than the 3 years if you've been in a graduate program? I think Amanda will take that.
I'm sorry, Meg, can you read the question one more time?
Sure. I can find it. Can your NCE be extended beyond the 3 years if you were in a graduate program.
Oh, thank you. The extension is going to be a maximum of 3 years, so 2 additional years beyond the 1 year that's given from your NCE status. And typically at our agency, we extend your NCE for the amount of time that you've been enrolled in another activity. So if you need a 2-year extension, we would be looking to see that you have been working or that you have been enrolled in an educational program for those 2 years.
Okay. I think some folks are experiencing if they have recently evacuated and do not have a complete and signed copy of their DOS, can they submit what they do have right now as a draft? Amanda or Laura, do you know the answer to that?
Yeah, I believe that, Amanda, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe they can still apply through the Peace Corps job site. They would need to either share the draft or make a note that they haven't received their DOS yet.
Yeah, that's correct. You just, if you are selected, if the manager is interested in bringing you on to their organization, you would need to have your signed DOS before we're able to extend a job offer to you.
Amanda, can you just say again who they should be in touch with to extend their NCE status? I think that applies to them.
Yeah, so if you're applying through the RPCV portal and you need an extension, the hiring managers or the HR liaisons who are working with you to coordinate that, they're going to reach out to HR, our shared service center in Cincinnati or in Research Triangle Park, and they will request that extension. So it's not actually something that you'll have to request, but the manager who's looking to hire you will request it for you.
Thank you. There's a question, is there a recommendation between uploading a resume versus building a federal resume? And either type of resume you can find on USA Jobs. I think that's up to your discretion. You can build it within USA Jobs or you can upload your personal resume. The question is, what is the general hiring timeline for the EPA? Laura, do you want to take that?
And the answer is it really depends. We do have several standard processes, so obviously there's the application time. That is going to be faster if you use the RPCV job site. And then time for interviews, checking references, and then there is a background investigation before you can finally be brought on board. So, you know, on the long end, it can be a few months, and on the short end, it can be maybe 8 weeks or so.
Okay. There's been a few questions on, is it okay to apply for multiple positions posted at the EPA? And the answer to that is yes. You can apply for more than one position.
I would just add to that, make sure that you're applying to positions that you are interested in that meet your experience, and you just don't want to be applying blindly to positions just to get, you know, your resume looked at. Make sure that you're interested, and those are places you want to move to, and the work sounds interesting to you.
This is maybe for any of the EPA employees that are also RPCVs. Does anyone recommend having an advanced degree before starting your work at the EPA?
This is Angelina Feldman. Oh, sorry.
No, Angelina, you go first.
Angelina. Well, I was just going to say that, it depends on the position. Like has been said, sometimes you're required to have one. Of course, if you have one, that's never going to be a negative. That's going to be a bonus, if anything. But I only had my undergraduate degree plus my Peace Corps time and a little bit of work experience when I started at EPA. And I'm in a field that a lot of my colleagues do have technical degrees and advanced degrees in IT and data analytics and things. So, I don't work in HR, but it's certainly not required unless it states in the position that you need to be an engineer or an attorney or whatever for the particular position.
I'll jump in. This is Lindsay speaking. And I actually am so sorry. I forgot to mention that I work in the Region 2 office. It's in downtown New York City. So if any of you are Spanish speakers as well, Puerto Rico is in our region. And because I'm a Spanish speaker, I regularly go down and work with some of their teams. So just as a disclaimer, if any of you are native Spanish speakers or you learned it very well in your service, please consider keeping a peek out for Region 2. I will say that I had 2 advanced degrees when I came in, and I think it changed my level of pay when I did come in. And my job actually does require an advanced degree. And personally, I really just enjoyed a lot of the things I got to learn in graduate school, and I feel like it really equipped me for being able to, if I choose in the future, kind of expand on a lot of these skills that I got this foundation in grad school, whether it be like certain data analytics or even just communicating with my RPMs. But it's definitely not necessary for all of the jobs, but for mine in particular it was. So I hope that's helpful.
Thank you. Amanda, this might be a question for you. For these jobs on USA Jobs, when do they fill out the questionnaire? How do they access the questionnaire? And do applicants only need to submit documents that is required in USA Jobs, or should they also submit supplemental documents such as a cover letter?
So when you go to apply to a position, you will be routed directly to the questionnaire. So you'll hit apply, you'll have to answer a couple of the USA Jobs questions. You'll click again that you're saying you want to apply to this position, and then you will be routed to the EPA site where the eligibility questions followed by the assessment questions asking about your specific experience will be available. So you first need to hit apply before you can do that. On any announcement on USA Jobs, under the qualification section, you can preview the questions. So you're able to look at what the questions will be so you can see what experience we're asking about before you actually begin to apply. As far as the required documents, you want to make sure that at a minimum you submit the required documents, and supplemental information is okay, but it's not required. There will be document slots for you to upload. So there will be 3 different places for you to upload transcripts. A supplemental documents field is there so you can upload references or a cover letter. But again, they're not required. Only anything listed in the announcement is required at the time of application.
Thanks, Amanda. There's a question if you've been out of university or college for a long time, do you still need to submit transcripts for senior level positions that might require a transcript?
I can answer that one, Meg. If it is a position that requires transcripts, if it has an educational requirement, you do need to submit your transcript showing that you have that education, no matter what GS level it is. So if it's a GS7 or a GS15, if there's an education requirement, your transcripts must be submitted.
Thank you.
Hi, this is Laura. I think someone asked a question about the difference between an environmental policy analyst and a program analyst. Environmental policy analyst is doing just that. They're typically analyzing policy for risks and other factors that might impact that policy before it is released or after when it's in play. And then a program analyst is typically an administrative job. They're analyzing programs, usually administrative programs, for effectiveness and efficiency, planning, improving, et cetera, that type of work.
Thank you, Laura. Just really quick, there's a question on if your NCE has expired. Are you only eligible to apply for jobs on USA Jobs and not the RPCV career list? Amanda, do you know the answer to that?
Yeah, if it's, you're still within the 3 years and you just need an extension, then you can still apply through the RPCV portal. If you're beyond 3 years, then you're not going to be eligible to utilize NCE status anymore. So you'll need to be looking at jobs on USA Jobs that are open to the public.
Thank you, Amanda. There's a question on whether the EPA requires security clearance or just a background check. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that depends on the type of position that you're applying for. You may, if special clearance is needed for that position, then you would have to go through that process in addition to the background check. We'll just have time for a few more. We need to end by 2 p.m., but please, again, check out the links, the RPCV career link, EPA.gov, and please write down or take a photo, screenshot of the links on this page, and reach out to our contact, Shane Santos, with any other questions that you may have on the application process or the EPA, or to submit your resume. And again, we can't thank you enough for joining us today, and we look forward to hopefully seeing you in the future. Thanks again, everyone.